Friends, it is Tuesday, May 26th. You have one assignment today. This is level 3 of making chords. And on Thursday, you have your last assignment. And then next week is going to be just making up all of your missed assignments or to get that grade that you want to get. So I can help you. Make sure that you either Zoom with us, okay? We'll put the invitations out on Google Stream, or make sure that you email me or give me a message on Google Stream letting me know when you want to Zoom. Chapter 13. If this were a book written to entertain small children, you'd know what would happen next. When the villain's identity and evil plans were exposed, the police would arrive on the scene and place him in a jail for the rest of his life, and the plucky youngsters would go out for pizza and live happily ever after. But this book is about the Baudelaire orphans, and you know, and I know, that these 3 unfortunate children living happily ever after is about as likely as Uncle Monty returning to life. But it seemed to the Baudelaire orphans, as the tattoo became evident, that at least a little bit of Uncle Monty had come back to them as they proved Count Olaf's treachery once and for all. Yeah, that's the eye, all right, Mr. Poe said, and stopped rubbing Count Olaf's ankle. You are most definitely Count Olaf, and you are most definitely under arrest. I am most definitely shocked, Dr. Lucafont said, clapping his oddly solid hands together. Oh, as am I, Mr. Poe agreed, grabbing Count Olaf's arm in case he tried to run anywhere. Violet, Klaus, Sonny, please forgive me for not believing you earlier. It just seemed too far-fetched that he would have searched you out, disguised himself as a laboratory assistant, and concocted an elaborate plan to steal your fortune. I wonder what happened to Gustav, Uncle Monty's real lab assistant, Klaus wondered out loud. If Gustav hadn't quit, then Uncle Monty never would have hired Count Olaf. Count Olaf had been quiet this whole time, ever since the tattoo had disappeared. His shiny eyes had darted this way and that way, watching everyone carefully, the way a lion would watch a herd of antelope, looking for the one that would be best to kill and eat. But at the mention of Gustav's name, he spoke up. Ah! Gustav didn't quit, he said in a wheezy voice. Gustav is dead. One day he was out collecting wildflowers. I drowned him in the swarthy swamp. Then I forged a note saying that he quit. Count Olaf looked at the 3 children as if he were going to run over and strangle them, but instead he stood absolutely still, which somehow was even scarier. But that's nothing compared to what I'll do to you orphans. You've won this round of the game, but I will return for your fortune and for your precious skin. Oh, this is not a game, you horrible man, Mr. Poe said. Dominoes is a game. Water polo is a game. Murder is a crime. And you will go to jail for it. I will drive you to the police station in town right this very minute. Oh, drat, I can't. My car's wrecked. Well, I'll take you down in Dr. Montgomery's Jeep, and you children can follow along in Dr. Lucafont's car. I guess you'll be able to see the inside of a doctor's automobile after all. It might be easier, Dr. Lucafont said, to put Stefano in my car and have the children follow behind. After all, Dr. Montgomery's body is in my car, so there's no room for 3 children anyway. Oh, well, Mr. Poe said, well, I would hate to disappoint the children after they've had such a trying time. We can move Dr. Montgomery's body to the Jeep and... Oh, we couldn't care less about the inside of a doctor's automobile, Violet said impatiently. We only made that up so we wouldn't be trapped with Count Olaf. You shouldn't tell lies, orphans, Count Olaf said. Yes, and I don't think that you are in a position to give moral lectures to children, Count Olaf, Mr. Poe said sternly. All right, Dr. Lucafont, you take him. Dr. Lucafont grabbed Count Olaf's shoulders with one of his oddly stiff hands and led the way out of the reptile room and to the front door, stopping at the doorway to give Mr. Poe and the 3 children a thin smile. Say goodbye to the orphans, Count Olaf, Dr. Lucafont said. Goodbye, Count Olaf said. Goodbye, Violet said. Goodbye, Klaus said. Mr. Poe coughed into his handkerchief and gave a sort of disgusted half wave at Count Olaf, indicating goodbye. But Sonny didn't say anything. Violet and Klaus looked down at her, surprised that she hadn't said yeet or liebo or any of the various terms for goodbye. But Sonny was staring at Dr. Lucafont with a determined look in her eye, and in the moment she leapt into the air and bit him on the hand. "Sonny," Violet said, and was about to apologize for her behavior when she saw Dr. Lucafont's whole hand came loose from his arm and fell to the floor. As Sonny clamped down on it with her 4 sharp teeth, the hand made a crackling sound, like breaking wood or plastic rather than skin or bone. And when Violet looked at the place where Dr. Lucafont's hand had been, she saw no blood or indication of a wound, but a shiny metal hook. Dr. Lucafont looked at the hook too, and then Violet, and grinned horribly. Count Olaf grinned too, and in a second the two of them had darted out the door. "The hook-handed man!" Violet shouted. "He's not a doctor. He's one of Count Olaf's henchmen." Instinctively, Violet grabbed the air where the 2 men had been standing, but of course they weren't there. She opened the door wide and saw the 2 of them sprinting through the snake-shaped hedges. "After them!" Klaus shouted, and the 3 Baudelaires started to run through the door. But Mr. Poe stepped in front of them and blocked their way. "No!" he cried. "But it's the hook-handed man," Violet shouted. "He and Olaf will get away." "I can't let you run after those 2 dangerous criminals," Mr. Poe replied. "I am responsible for the safety of you children, and I will not have any harm come to you." "Then you go after them," Klaus cried. "But hurry!" Mr. Poe began to step out the door, but he stopped when he heard the roar of a car engine starting up. The 2 ruffians, a word here which means horrible people, had reached Dr. Lucafont's car and were already driving away. "Get in the jeep," Violet exclaimed. "Follow them." "A grown man," Mr. Poe said sternly, "does not get involved in a car chase. This is a job for the police. I'll call them now, and maybe they can set up a roadblock." The Baudelaire youngsters watched Mr. Poe shut the door and race to the telephone, and their hearts sank. They knew it was no use, and by the time Mr. Poe was through explaining the situation to the police, Count Olaf and the hook-handed man were sure to be gone. Suddenly exhausted, Violet, Klaus, and Sonny walked to Uncle Monty's enormous staircase and sat down on the bottom step, listening to the faint sound of Mr. Poe talking on the phone. They knew that trying to find Count Olaf and the hook-handed man, particularly when it grew dark, would be like trying to find a needle in a haystack. All right, we will start there and finish up on Thursday. Check your homework helper, check your assignment, make sure to contact me if you need help, and when you'd like to Zoom with me. All right, have a good week. Bye-bye.